Is this better? Hit the intro. Still math. Hey everybody. Glad to see you again. Hey look, we're getting fancy schmancy around here. I got me a nice little microphone. So today our topic is slope. Slope is, it's just a big topic when it comes to math because especially in the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade range because we're learning how to graph lines and do things like that and to be able to tell what's being done to the function each time. And the slope is the consistency there. When we talked about proportional relationships, we talked about a constant of proportionality, which is no different than a slope. The only reason it's called a constant of proportionality is because constant of proportionality applies only to proportional relationships, because slope applies to that and lines that are not proportional, aka they don't have to go through 0, 0. So you've seen slope before, but let's go ahead and get a reacquainted with slope. So slope. Let's see if I can do this. I'm not done with a mic before. Slope. So slope is denoted with the letter M, and there's three ways to think about it. It's the change in y over change in x. That triangle is delta. That means the change or the difference. The way you find changes through difference. It's rise over run, and I write that purposely with a y. That way we remember the y is on top. So I know rise is spelt wrong, but with the y, that way we remember it's on top. And it's also y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The 2 and the 1 do not mean squared. They're not exponents. They're nothing more than the second y minus the first y over the second x minus the first x. And we'll get into that in just a second. Also, we know our formula for a line, y equals mx plus b, the point slope formula. That was a lie. Whoops. I'm real good at telling lies on this thing. It's the slope-intercept form. Why? Because there's a slope, m, and there's the intercept, b. We're not talking about the intercept today, but I just wanted to show you where slope is in a formula because you're going to have to be able to tell that. Okay? So then I wanted to introduce you to my friend. He's very different. His name is Mr. Hoivux. Mr. Hoivux. So here he is. And he is maybe I can hold it back here. Maybe you can see there. He is a good way to remember what each slope would look like. So if you think of everything like you read a book or read a sentence on a page from left to right, if you're going uphill from left to right, that's a positive slope. If you're going downhill from left to right, that's a negative slope. I also think of it, again, left to right. If I had to push a ball up a hill, it's positive. If the ball would roll down by itself, left to right, it's negative. Straight up and down slope is undefined. That's what the U is for. And a horizontal left to right slope is a slope of 0. So that's where his name comes in, Hoivux. Hoi stands for a horizontal line, has a slope of 0, and will be written as y equals a constant. That's how the equation would be. Vux is a vertical line. The slope is undefined, and it would be written as x equals a constant. Okay, so that's Mr. Hoivux. So let's look at a couple examples. So if we have y equals negative 3x plus 2, remembering that y equals mx plus b, the slope is always what's touching the x. Okay, it's not the other number. The other number is the intercept. So our slope in this case would be negative 3. Okay? Our slope in this case, people would automatically usually say that it's 2, just because it's the first thing that comes. But that's not the case. We're doing what's touching the x. And what's touching the x is a negative 7. Wait a second, Mr. Stowe. I thought that was a minus sign. Well, if you remember, subtraction can be written as plus a negative. So it's the same as if we said 2 plus negative 7x. So negative 7 is the slope. If we're given a line like this, you can automatically look at it and see that it's increasing from left to right, so it has to be positive. But also, you can find a point. So I focused on this point, 1, 1, and this point, 4, 2. And I did rise over run, and I saw I went up 1 and right 3. Can you see that? Up 1, right 3. So rise over run, up 1 is positive 1, right 3 is positive 3, slope is 1/3. And I wrote this little cheat sheet over here to remind you that up and right are positive directions. So when you're putting in the fraction, those will be positive. If you go down or left, those are negative directions. So you would put negatives in the fraction if you were doing that. Okay? And then, when you're given two coordinates, for example, 3, 0 and -5, 2. I'm not going to make the same mistake I made last week where I had the wrong answer because I wrote something wrong. There's my marker. We're not going to do -5, 2. We're going to do -5, -2 because I did my work with a -2. That would have been 2 weeks in a row where I did my work different than the problem. Goodness gracious. So, let me get a little one so I don't write on my hand. Close enough. We've got 3, 0, -5, -2. So we're going to use the formula m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And I remember I told you y2 just means the second y. y1 just means the first y. x2 is the second x, x1 is the second x, or the first x. So how do I know which one's the first y and which one's the second y? Well, it honestly does not matter. What matters is if I call 0 my y2, I have to call 3 my x2. That's the only thing that matters. So just to prove that, I did it both directions. So we'll focus on the left side here first. I called -5. Is that a -5? It's written backwards. No. Sorry. I called -2 my second y, and 0 my first y, -5 my second x, and 3 my first x. So when I did the work, I had y2 minus y1, -2 minus 0, over x2 minus x1, -5 minus 3. -2 minus 0 is just -2. -5 minus 3 is -8. When you simplify that, that becomes positive because they're both negatives, 1/4. Then if we did it this direction and made 0 our second y and -2 our first y, 3 our second x and -5 our first x, then when you do that math, you would have 0 minus -2. Wait, why is there two minus signs? What are you doing there? Well, there's a minus in the equation, right? So that's got to be there. And then there's a negative because that was a -2. So 0 minus -2 is the same as 0 plus 2, which is 2. 3 minus -5, because again, minus in the equation, -5, is 3 plus 5, which is 8. 2 over 8 simplifies to 1/4, and as you can see, they are the same. Okay? So that is a rundown of slope. I hope that helped. And yeah, so I guess we'll just see you next time. Let me go ahead and cut this